There was a question which is obviously difficult. Every meal offering which is mentioned in the Torah has to be comprised of matzah. It cannot become leavened. If the meal offering becomes leavened, it is not valid. However, the two meal offerings which must be leavened, which must be chometz. One of the meal offerings, we find the Torah tells us that there's certain times that a person must bring a thanks offering. The Talmud tells us that if a person traverses the desert, travels the high seas, which is one is in a state of danger, and he comes out alive after the trek of the desert or traveling the high seas, he returns well. He must bring a thanks offering to God to give thanks that he's alive. If one recovers from a serious illness where the person could have died, one must bring a thanks offering. If one was incarcerated in prison, which itself is being in a state of danger, life-threatening, and one is released, one must bring a thanks offering to thank God that he's alive. What exactly is the thanks offering? What is it comprised of? Firstly, one must bring a sheep, which is the sacrifice itself, and what accompanies the sacrifice, one must bring 40 loaves of bread. 30 of the 40 loaves are comprised of matzah. They do not become leavened. But 10 of the 40 are leavened. They must be chometz. But if chometz is such a representation of something which is so spiritually vile, why must the thanks offering have 10 of the 40 loaves must be chometz, and not all 40 matzah? Matzah represents purity, humility, total removal from anything negative. But yet, in this context, the Torah says a quarter of the loaves, 10 of the 40 loaves, must be chometz. The question is why? Even more difficult, according to the Maral of Prague, if the 49-day period from the time we left Egypt was a time of spiritual ascent, and finally on the 50th day we reached the pinnacle of our spirituality and we were worthy to be taken as God's people, and we bring the 2 loaves of bread, which is referred to as the shtei alechem, with the sacrifice. The 2 loaves of bread, as we said, are wheat, because wheat represents the human being. The primary consumption of wheat is by the human being. Those 2 loaves of bread must be chometz, must be leavened. You would think, if we're speaking about reaching the pinnacle of our spirituality, which is totally removed and divorced from anything which is negative within the spiritual realm, you would say definitely the 2 loaves of bread should be matzah, should not be leavened, but yet the Torah says they must be leavened. I mean, how do we intermingle something of such a negative representation at a time to commemorate the ultimate level of our achievement, that we achieved perfection within the spiritual realm? How do we reconcile the fact that chometz is something which is synonymous or represents arrogance, desire, craving for something which is within an area which could cause a person to be dictated by his desires and lose sight of truth? This is the conflict of interest of a human being. But yet the Torah says it must be chometz, the 2 loaves of bread. that are brought on Shavuos. The thanks offering, 10 of the 40 loaves must be Chometz. Why? Where every other meal offering is unleavened, is matzah and not Chometz.